everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 5. All right, before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, before we get started on this week's review, let's give a shout out to our sponsors for this video. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors of this video, BetterHelp. If you don't know what BetterHelp is, let me tell you real quick. BetterHelp is an amazing online therapy platform with over 20,000 licensed professionals worldwide. The thing that I love about BetterHelp is it brings therapy and support for mental health at your fingertips. After a quick assessment, all you have to do is fill out this questionnaire and you can be matched and start chatting with your therapist within 48 hours. They provide financial aid, which is one of the most major, I think, game changers, because right now, especially in this economy, people are looking for ways to do what they need to do, and they don't want to necessarily cut corners. Sometimes we drop things like therapy, but that is an investment just like anything else. So they provide financial aid in order for you to be able to afford these quality services. My favorite feature is also the fact that they let you switch therapists. If you've seen a therapist, then you know that every therapist isn't your therapist. So it's important that you have a really good, strong relationship with that therapist. And so if you meet with someone and they might be great, but you're not vibing, they let you switch therapists at no cost. You're able to chat in the way that you are most comfortable, whether it is via video or whether, because some of us might be zoomed out and we just want to have a phone call. So you're able to do that. There's no driving, there's no waiting in waiting rooms and all of that time, all of the excuses that make this something that people struggle to get a hold of. It's right at your fingertips. So the great thing is, if you use my link, you get 10% off of your first month. So go ahead and try it out. Let me know what you guys think. Comment on the video. My link is betterhelp.com/Stephanie Lee. That's BetterHelp, HELP. All right, let's jump into this week's review. I really liked this week's episode. I thought that it was really interesting. I thought that they gave a lot of really good content and there's a lot to talk about. So let's just jump in. I'm going to kick it off with Morgan and Ben. Morgan and Ben finished their wedding, their reception, and they joined the rest of the couples at the honeymoon. Morgan and Ben so far seem to get along great. I do feel like Morgan may have a personality that may be overwhelming for Ben, but right now, I'm just gonna stick in the now. Right now, I think that they're getting along great. I think that they have this good little back and forth rapport where they make jokes and they laugh. I literally laughed out loud when Ben said that, it's his birthday, so if his wife gave him sex, he couldn't refuse a gift. It's funny. They're having a good time. They're not, yes, it's a serious thing, but they're not taking it too seriously. I love that she put together something for the morning of his birthday and got the hotel to deliver those little desserts or whatever to really acknowledge it. I think it's a great way for him to start his birthday, and I love that he's excited about it. I'm turning 30. I'm getting married. What a great way to enter this new season of my life. They seem to have a good time together, even when they picked the sides of the bed and, he said, "Are you okay with this side of the bed?" And she said, "Well, you're closest to the condoms." Listen, I'm all about humor and sarcasm and inappropriate laughs. That is me in real life. So all that stuff, I felt like that is the shtick that you do with your spouse. You go back and forth and you say all these funny things and what may not be appropriate to say in public all the time. This is what you do with your spouse. We just happen to see what they are talking about. So I thought it was so funny. I enjoyed watching them. I'm enjoying them getting to know each other so far. It's still very early on, but they seem to be happy. I don't necessarily know that if they would have met somewhere, would have been naturally attracted to each other, not even in the sense of physicalities, but just personality wise. But you never know. It hasn't been working up until this point. So maybe there is something there. We saw her get with his family and he get with, her family and friends. I thought the thing that I took note of with them, because nothing really stuck out, so let me know if you guys remember something, was how his mom was so, like, he's a mama's boy and he talks to mom and he calls mom and it's mom, mom, mom. She's like quietly, getting a little territorial with, this is my son, he is my number one, I'm his number one, and like essentially don't get in the way of that. It didn't appear that way, but listen, I can hear what's not being said. I can see what's not being shown. And in the world of women, we can say a lot without saying much. So I picked up on that. Mom was kind of laying it down like, that's my son, that's my boy. He calls his mom. Like, this is not going to change anything. I think it's cute that she thought it was cute. I don't think she really will think it's cute if it continues to be a hindrance, but she was like, I love that. That is so great. There's an element of that that's great, because if you have oftentimes, this is not every time, but oftentimes when you see a man have a strong relationship with his mother, it tends to translate to the relationship with his wife in terms of really treating her in a certain fashion. So in some ways that can be good. It's just about being able to recognize when those boundaries need to be drawn and when choices need to be made. And I said that last review, he's going to have to learn how to do that. And that's something he's going to have to learn to do. He's going to mess it up, because if you haven't had to do that before, really kind of prioritize your spouse and set limitations with your parents, especially if you're really close to them, then you're gonna mess it up before. There's gonna be a catalyst that causes that change to be necessary beyond the marriage. There'll be a situation, and then she'll have to say what she needs to say, and he'll have to figure it out. But so far so good. I'm enjoying them, and we'll see how it goes. So that is Morgan and Ben. Next we have Nate and Stasha. So I continue to enjoy Nate and Stasha. I think that Stasha is exactly what Nate needs, because here we got last week, and we're gonna get different facets of people, right? Because people are multifaceted, so we're gonna see different sides. But last week we were able to see beyond the playboy. We were able to see, Nate kind of talking about, the things that made him desire and long for a family, and why, and the lack of family, and he got emotional. We were able to see him be transparent and open. And then now we're back to Playboy Nate. Nate is on the gram on his RV, or is that what it's even called? Whatever. On his four-wheeler, and he is not really, and Sasha's looking like, hey, now I'm all over the place, but they're on the honeymoon, they're doing an activity, it's riding through the forest or the jungle or whatever, and she's kind of saying, hey, I want to make sure that my husband is paying attention to me, making sure I'm safe, knowing where I am, making sure I'm taken care of, essentially. And Nate is not doing that. Nate is like, are you guys ready? All right, I'm ready to go. Nate, for me, during that four-wheeler ride, to me, he may as well have been on a guy's trip. Like, he really could have been with his homeboys, because he was focused on going fast, telling her she's going too slowly. He was focused on capturing it, and he was focused on his own experience. It was not an experience that they had together. And it just shows, kind of like the side that we assumed about him, that he's very showy. Even when they were getting dressed for, I think, a couple's night, he's in the room with the shades on, he's got his little chest out. It's like, we're inside, okay? He's very showy. I think to a certain extent that could be fun, that could be playful, that could be charming, given a confine, a window, but like all the time, that will get annoying. And you can tell, and it doesn't feel authentic, and you can tell that she was annoyed. And what I love about Stasha, which is why I said that she is gonna be what he needs so far, is because she called him out on it. She kind of joked with it, but she said, listen, you weren't really focused on me. It didn't feel like an activity that was about us. It didn't feel like you were present. It was like you were more focused on kind of the experience so you can share it. And I think it's really important that she was able to say that, and not only say it, but say it in a way that he could receive it and get to the meat and potatoes really quickly. Because a lot of times we may think some things, but I'll hold off, I'll say it. Well, they already got married, so really there is no time. Like, there is no time to beat around the bush. Let's just say, here's this thing that, it's a thing that concerns me, so let's just take note of that. Let's talk about it so we can be mindful. And he responded in a way for me that was making more like excuses. Like, I get that he's saying, he's used to his life and, is transitioning to thinking about we instead of I. But I felt like the way he said it was more of an excuse, even though he took it well, because she's doing the same thing. Yes, she was able to be present, so it's a choice. Like, a lot of people will make excuses for how long things have to take, but the decision to do it is immediate. And you can literally change your action in that scenario immediately. So it's going to take some time. No, overall it will, but like in that moment, it doesn't have to. So I hope that moving forward in the honeymoon, we're able to see him, and moving forward just in their lives together, we're able to see him kind of take note of that and like be mindful to that. I also liked their banter back and forth. They have a good banter. Clearly they're very physically attracted to each other. So I like that she said she was waiting for the opportunity to be intimate with her heart, not necessarily just because they're very attracted to each other. I think that's smart. I think with this experiment, they love to say, and the experts love to say, well, they're married. Okay. Let's not rush it. Let's just, there's something between 1 day and 8 weeks. And I think it's safe to land, further away from day 1. And it doesn't have to be day 60 or whatever, but it definitely doesn't have to be, day 2. I think that's okay. So I enjoyed watching them. Also, I think they had a great conversation about the finances. Big ups to her for saying, let's have a post-nup. I think whoever wants to ask for that should ask for that, and should, especially in this scenario, and be honest about why they want that. And he was honest about his bankruptcy and everything. At least, I don't know if with her, but he obviously shared with her family, so it's not something he was hiding, and it came back and they discussed it. And I think it's very smart, especially in this scenario, for her to ask for that. And I know he kind of said, oh, you don't trust your boy, but I don't know you enough to trust you. And, we're doing this whole thing, and that's a lot, but I think it's just smart on both ends. And, another thing before I move on with the another couple, Stasha and Nate, when they were on the boat, I thought that it was really sweet. And once again, I think vulnerability is going to be the power for Stasha, because she doesn't necessarily always come across vulnerable, but I think as she demonstrates her vulnerability, that's going to be like a secret powerful thing that she has that's able to draw other people as well as her spouse, and able to kind of be fruitful in relationships. We saw her talk about keeping, changing her last name, and also keeping it whether they stay together or not, and the significance of, why that's so important to her, why she wants her kids to have the same last name. And they have similar stories, as far as missing out on this thing that they so desperately wanted, and really being intentional and genuinely wanting to create that for themselves and for their children, or their child's moving forward. And we saw her get emotional about not knowing her father, not knowing that lineage. And at first when she said, I'm going to keep my last name because I don't know it, so it was easy to give it up. In my mind, I was like, it's easy to give it up, but it isn't. That's two-sided. There's something else on the other side of that. And then when Alexis said, I know my father, and she got emotional, I was like, okay, that's it. It isn't just easy to give it up. Of course, there's a part of you that wants to know where the other half of you is, and know about it, and want to learn about it. And there's always that piece of you that will feel like you're missing. That is natural. That is human. So to kind of say, oh, it's fine, it's not fine. We make it fine. I think Morgan is doing the same thing with, walking herself down the aisle and not needing her dad and all that. I love how she has found a way to make it make sense for her and emancipate herself. But like, I'm sure she would want that if she could have that, or a relationship with her father if she could have that. So yeah, it was good to see her say, that's a soft spot for her and really share. I don't think that Alexis was being offensive. I think because it came off on the heels of her saying she didn't know her dad, and Alexis saying, well, I did know my dad, but I still feel like I didn't have a relationship. I feel like just the timing made it seem, and I applaud Alexis for really, really being like, I didn't mean it that way. Like I wasn't, I think it was a very genuine moment, and I don't think she meant any malice by that. So that was good to see. So overall, I think Stasha and Nate had a great episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. Next, we have Alexis and Justin. So Justin dropped the L-bomb, y'all. He did. Justin dropped the L-bomb. What do I think about that? I am the type of person who feels like you can have a spark that is something special. Or you can have something that leads to love, that is connected to something that will end up in like true love. Do I personally feel like you can meet someone and day 1 or day 2 or maybe day 3 at this point, know that you love them? For me, the answer is no. Because I feel like true love encompasses so many layers, so many things about someone that you can't know in 3 days. I mean, I feel like when you love someone, you got to know that there's some parts of them and know which parts that you don't like. I just couldn't meet someone 3 days in and say, I love them. I think it is, but I don't project that onto other people, but this is my review. So I'm like saying, I'm not really buying that from Justin. But people are free to feel however they feel. Justin, for me, is so wrapped up in love. He is in this love bubble. He is in a pink cloud. He is in this cocoon. And I feel like, I don't know, this is my thought about Justin. I feel like Justin was so hurt in the past, and whatever that history of that particular relationship, as well as other relationships, and maybe because he touched on, she makes him feel so comfortable and he not judged. So I feel like he has a history of being judged and feeling uncomfortable and being made to feel lesser than or not enough or whatever the case may be, that this is maybe, if we're going based off of what he's saying and showing right now, this is the first person who has made him feel the complete opposite. And so he is in love. Like, I feel like he is in love with the feeling that he is feeling right now, and it happens to show up in Alexis. Now, can he care about her? Absolutely. But the scenario is set to right now where they have not truly experienced the reality of life together. They meet at the altar, so they're beautiful, they're made up, everything's paid for, family and friends are there, there's cocktails flowing, and then there's this hotel room. They didn't have to book it. They didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to throw the flowers in a heart. They didn't have to do any of that. A basket shows up at the door, and it's Mexico, or is that where they are? I think it's Mexico. And there's little stuff in it, and then their flights are booked, and they're in this beautiful suite, and it's all inclusive. Like, this is not real life. This is like not real. So it's like, I remember when I went on my honeymoon after I got married, when I got home, like, I was so used to somebody fixing the bed every time we left the room, not even daily, but every time we left the room, we'd come back and it was fixed. And when I come home, I was like, babe, we have to fix the bed. Like, there's nobody here to do it. Like, that is not real life. Okay. So I need them to transition over, and they will, to real life. And then I want to see what this love thing is all about. I respect how he feels for where he is, but I think that's a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure. And I think that's a big jump. And I just hope he doesn't fall too far down, because he's not reserving. Like, I want to hear, I love you, but I know like I want to hear a but, and I'm not hearing that. And that could be really detrimental if they don't really work together and kind of walk this thing together. But we'll see. We shall see. Justin is in love, so he loves her and he's in love. That's what he said very clearly, and he even delineated that it was not just because of XYZ. It's not a feeling. It's all of these things. So he's very clear about how he feels. Alexis, on the other hand, Alexis, I don't know. Alexis is cool. I think her conversation with the girls on the boat and her talking a little bit about, feeling like she didn't have a connection with her father, and also the conversation that they had at dinner, her and Justin, with, like not being ready to say that. And I liked her honesty about, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to say that. I see bits and pieces of her that could make her more interesting, but she's constantly slurring. Like, I feel like she's constantly slurring, and I'm getting bits and pieces of what she's saying. And also I feel like her responses to him, and I know his energy and his emotionality it might be a lot for her. But I feel like her responses are immature. She like curls up like, I don't know, like she's in the 8th grade or something. And the one little thing that she said that made me have just a little more patience is how she was like almost afraid to get into that space, because that space also opened the door for a lot of hurt, which I get. So it's just overwhelming. And if you're someone who is maybe not that emotional, so outwardly or so quickly, that could be overwhelming for you. So I get that, but I just want her to be like a little more mature about it. It just feels, sometimes I cringe and I watch it and I'm like, when she's like, ill, and I'm like, girl, I don't know. So I'm like half and half with her. What really irritated me though, and I'll close with them on this, is her telling, Morgan and Ben that he's celibate. Stop saying that. Like, he told you. He didn't tell everyone. Stop saying that. Stop spreading this man's business. And poor Justin, he's just so happy to be had that he's not gonna feel any kind of way about it. He's just gonna be happy to be had. And so not recognizing, and this takes me back to the conversations that her sister had with him at brunch, saying, how are you going to advocate for yourself? This will be a great time to advocate for oneself, Justin, and say, listen, I get it, but the whole celibate thing, because then he has to explain it, and he has to, say something to like, overpower the jaws dropping that he's been celibate. And, then it's a joke about when they're gonna have sex and what that'll be like, and that should happen between the two of them, because there's a reason why you chose to be celibate, and it probably was a very important reason and a serious reason. And so now his celibacy has turned into this joke because his wife keeps joking about it, and really she's uncomfortable with it because she doesn't know what to do with it. Clearly she maybe hasn't been with somebody who's been celibate, and so she now doesn't know how to navigate that. And I wish like she would have enough awareness to recognize that so they can have a conversation about it and say, well, what does this look like? So you've been celibate. What does it look like? Are you ready? Like, how will I know you're ready? What if I'm ready and you might not be? What does that look like? Let's have, and this is when a sex therapist or anybody with some sense can just come on in and say, hey, let's talk about this thing, so that it doesn't continue to be, because then it's going to be this big thing. And when it's time to now have sex, it's going to be, I don't know. I feel like it'll be more awkward than it needs to be, because it's like, dun, dun, dun. Now she's about to deflower him. Like, he's a grown man. He's had sex before. He's taken a break for whatever reason. When it's time to get it popping, let's go. But it's this microphone, this bullhorn that she has attached to her throat about this man's business. It's not a good look. So that really bothers me. And she's been yelling it since the dance floor of the reception. So that has been annoying. But other than that, they were interesting to watch. Interesting to watch. So that is Alexis, but they still have like a really great chemistry. So I'm hoping that, even if she's not able to say her emotions just yet. I'm hoping that what I'm seeing is true to what she's feeling, because that would be great for the two of them in their relationship. That is Alexis and Justin. Next we have Lindy and Miguel. So listen, Lindy and Miguel, I really like them. I've said this every video, but they have such an excellent way that they communicate with each other, with things that are difficult and things that are fun. They have such an excellent way of communicating. Him sharing his trauma with his mother, and you know, her being schizophrenic and him not understanding that because she abandoned them, and him not understanding that as a young child, as an adolescent, even as a young adult, him coming to know that, being a neuroscientist, and him having empathy for her and trying to kind of create a space for her, and her talking about her trauma, Lindy talking about her trauma. I thought that, and her affirming him sharing that, because I'm sure that's not easy. I'm sure that's not something that is, you know, top of conversation. So her affirming him sharing that so that he can feel that that share was valuable, and then he'll do it again. And her saying, you know, this is how I connect with you. This is how I feel close to you. And them talking about everything. Like, they have had really beautiful conversations to me where they communicate very well. One thing that I love about Lindy is she says what she needs. And a lot of times we will say, and I think women, I'll speak for us, not every one of us, but a lot of us will think certain things and will want men to know, and they won't always know, y'all. No surprise there. They won't always know. And then you get pissed about this thing that he should have known, but you know, he doesn't know and you didn't tell him. So I love that she says, you know, this is what makes me feel close to you. I really enjoy that you do this, so that he continues to do. She affirms him, and then she shares how she can be affirmed as well. It's like sharing the love languages so early on. Very high communication skill set with the two of them. Even on the dance floor, when he was, you know, sharing that, and this is back to the reception, you know you're pretty, so I don't have to tell you. And she's like, no, tell me I'm pretty. Like, what? Like, I like to hear that. I want to tell me I'm pretty. That is important, because a lot of times, and we've seen this on this show, like they'll say, does so-and-so think I'm attractive because they didn't say anything, you know? So I'm glad that she's like holding him to the fire a little bit and saying, this is what I need. Even when they were talking in the pool about sex, and she was saying, here, you know, thank you for taking your time. Here's where I come from. Here's my experience. Here's what I've experienced, and here's why I'm taking my time. Here's why it's important for me, and I appreciate your patience. Once again, letting him know that what he's doing is helping her to connect with him and what she needs. I think if they continue to do that, they're going to go very far, because they can also do that conversely about, here's what's not working, here's the things that are getting in the way. Effective communication is key in marriage. It's not just communication. People love to throw out, what's a great way to get, you know, to keep a marriage. People sling communication out, and it's like, you can communicate, but if the person is not actively listening, if you're not effectively communicating, if there aren't some boundaries, if there aren't some rules of engagement. And I have my husband come on these reviews several times throughout the season, and we always, you know, talk about rules of engagement. Here are the boundaries that we have for when we are turned up by something, in order not to cross a boundary that now takes the, you know, the conversation or the disagreement to a next level. And now we're not even arguing about what we're arguing about. Now it just gets disrespectful. So to avoid that, here are the rules of engagement. If they do that, I think that they will go really far. Listen, Miguel, with the whole sex, you would think that they've been married for a very long time, the way that he's talking about it. I think Miguel needs to pump the brakes on sex. It's what, day 2 of the honeymoon? You know? And I don't even understand. He said something like his needs are being met, and left it at that. I'm not that I want to know, but what are you talking about? You met her 3 days ago. Like, what, you know? So I think I love that she pumped the brakes and set the boundaries and said, this is what she needs. This is what she wants. Because clearly he's attracted to her. And I understand. And the thing with them is they both they both are so eloquent in their stance and so respectful in the way that they express their stance that I can see both sides. I can see, she's saying we're one, and it's essentially it's ordained by God. It's something that's a spiritual, intimate, etc. And he's like, it's also something that in the flesh is a way to demonstrate love as well, demonstrate, being attracted, and it's an extension of emotion for him as well. And that's true too. It just is about who it's about. There is no right or wrong here. So the way that they express difference of opinions is really, really good. And I haven't seen a couple do this well with tougher topics or anything so early in a long time. That don't know each other in a long time. I think they are doing really well. So I'm really enjoying watching them. And, I'm sure there'll be stuff that we won't love to see or whatever. But so far, so good with Lindy and Miguel. Last but not least, we have Mitch and Kristen. You guys, I cannot complain about Mitch this whole season. I really can't. I feel like I'm going to, though. Mitch is not attracted to Kristen. Mitch is not attracted to Kristen. I don't know what Mitch wanted. I don't think Mitch is being I think he's being honest, but I feel like there's just something he's not saying, something he's not sharing. I don't know what he was looking for. But ever since they got married, Mitch has been kind of in a frazzled state. We've seen many of these couples get married, and right after, when they're taking pictures with the families, they're asking oh, what do you think about your bride? Or what do you think about your groom? And it's kind of, yeah, they're cool. They seem cool. Unless they just don't like them, then it's a different story. But even during the reception, Mitch, I don't know how to feel. It's just so much. And I'm like, just chill. And I said this before, just from a human level, she seems nice. We're having a great conversation. That's it. We can't even get that from Mitch. We can't. God forbid they blow the little things to celebrate. He's not doing that. He, he's just really rigid in who he is. And he's not attracted to her, but she's attractive to him. He thinks she's attractive, I believe, but he's not attracted to her, but she's great. And he is so impressed with who she is. And he calls his brother and gets emotional about it and I really think he pulled the trigger too quickly with, telling her he wasn't attracted to her. But he calls his brother, and his brother essentially says, listen, he was like, because I want to be honest, and I want to, be real with my vows. And his brother says, you didn't vow to be attracted to her day one. These things can be built. And he's panicking, and he gets emotional, and he gets to dinner, and she's just, once again, happy to be there. And she's just looking for any morsel of give a damn from Mitch. And, he's polite, but, he's not really giving much, and essentially drops this bomb on her that he doesn't find her physically attracted. And it takes him time to warm up, and she takes it so well. I mean, you couldn't even see what she was thinking. I know what she was thinking, therefore maybe I could see what she was thinking, but if you looked at her face, that she didn't really change much in her face. It was really very cerebral for her. And I know that was hurtful, and it's hurtful for anybody. When the guys, when some of the women don't find the guys attractive, it's hurtful for anybody who hears that, because you just don't want to hear that. And that's not something you can change. But she takes it in stride. She communicates so well about, that was, hard to hear, but I appreciate you being honest with me. She took it in a very, very mature way, and better than a lot of people would have, because a lot of people would have been like, well, they're not attracted to me. And it would have been something that was so deflating that it would have been hard to come back from. It would have been hard to go to the pool and eat chocolate covered strawberries and drink beer and have conversation. And for me, Mitch is not the cream of the crop. So I'm struggling with, and everyone is allowed to be attracted to whomever they want. like, he doesn't have to be attracted to her because, you know, he doesn't have to, but I just feel like he has been so reserved, and not in a way that is like here and trying. It's like in a way that, you know, she had too much makeup on. She had this big wedding dress on at her wedding. She had these heels on at her wedding. I just want to see her natural. It's like nothing is good enough. You know, it started in the room before, the bow tie and the haircut and the beard. It was just like, I haven't heard much positive from him. She sat with his family for brunch, and there was nothing positive then either. So like, my patience, I'll be honest, is really, really short for Mitch, because I have yet to see something that is doting or something that is, you know, infighting about him. But then, plot twist, you know, they have this moment towards the end, I don't know if it was fueled by libations, where clearly they kissed or they made out or whatever, because she said he was a good kisser, but she's also taking it in stride, because she was like, you know, you tell me all of this, and then we have that moment, and although that was nice, like, essentially I can't trust anything. And he says he got going. I couldn't find the remote to turn off the TV, honestly. I was just like, wait, you know, this mixed messages, you're not starting off on a good foot, because now she's insecure, which means she's going to start to question things. Does he like me? Does he not? Was that, because I would do that. Was it the alcohol? Was it, because if you're blatantly telling me hours before that you're not into it, and then you're like, I'm a man, what does that mean? If that's the case, then you didn't need to tell her that you weren't attracted. You should have just had your man moment and then just did something, you know, like, what does that mean? If you're so clear about not being attracted, but then you're like, I'm a man, does that mean that well, she was there and I'm a man, so I got revved up? Like, Mitch, you guys, can you tell that he bothers me? Mitch irks me. He really does. He's going to be a problem, but I said that since the first episode. So we are going to watch him be a problem moving forward, and I feel bad for Kristen, because she seems so genuine and just really wanting to just be here and do the right thing. And yeah, I don't think he's gonna do the right thing. And I don't mind him being honest, but then let your words match or your actions match what you say. Don't say you're not attracted and then do that, and so quickly. I mean, I could get that he says, you know, this takes time to build, and then maybe like the next day try to hold a hand or something that's giving her affirmation. And once again, she so beautifully said, these are the things that I need to make me feel XYZ, you know, telling me this, telling me that. Like, she's training him for her, which I think every couple can learn, because just don't assume that your person's gonna know. And even if you've been with someone for so long, seasonally our love languages change depending on where we are in our lives. So yeah, communicating your needs are really, really important, and she did that really well as well. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe and share and comment. Let me know what you guys thought. And also, I'm going to share on another video, but I am just going to give you a little sneak peek. Several years ago, I did a soft launch of my card game called Sip and Share, A Fun Way to Be Nosy. It's a conversation starter card game. And when I ran out, I did not renew. And then the pandemic happened. But I am back. It is revamped and relaunched. I'm going to put the website here. It's also going to be in the description box, but I'm going to do another video, and I'm actually going to probably play it so you guys can see it, and then probably invite you guys to play it soon. But if you want, you guys can go ahead and start purchasing. It's called Sip and Share, A Fun Way to Be Nosy. It's a conversation starter card game. There are relationships, questions, sex, career, life in general, just really, really fun, getting to know each other, creating new connections, deepening, you know, current connections, kind of like getting rid of like the old boring conversations, something fun for game night. It has this very cute magnetic box that opens like this, and then these bright red cards, and I'll just show you one of these cards. Very easy to read. And this is a hot one already, right? Does cheating automatically equal divorce? So you can see that these questions can go on and on in terms of how your night goes, because there's hours of conversation, hours of fun, tons of good stuff. So I'm going to put the website here, but I appreciate your support in advance and look out for more information on that. All right, guys, I'm done for real now. Everyone have a wonderful weekend.